People, Deluded, I'm back again. Good morning, I hope you're all doing well and safe in my time zone, which is Sunday morning. And yeah, man, I hope you're all well and safe and them things. Couple of things to speak about. Rather humorous is Unai Emery's stuff I've seen in the Sun. I don't like to say that name. Please don't buy that newspaper. Please do not click on their links. I hate clicking on their links, but I had to, people, really and truly. It's a scumbag newspaper, and especially if you live in England, you know what the Sun do, man. But moving forward, Dani Ceballos is the man in question today, folks, and as you lot know, it's a touchy one with him. You've seen him linked with a move to Seville, a move to Valencia next season. He tried to go in January. We've previously heard he wants to return to Spain. We've also heard he's surplus to requirements at Real Madrid, along with potentially James Rodriguez, and also Gareth Bale, who signed a new deal. Why they want to sell these players, I don't know, because, I mean, Bale's a quality player, but, you know, it hasn't seen eye to eye from a fan's perspective with Zidane. James Rodriguez, you know, it's time to move on. He's got a year on his deal. Ceballos probably not of the level to impact Real Madrid immediately, and it's been a bit part player there, but you'd think there's some potential there and there's some longevity there. Obviously, he can raise substantial funds for them of 40 million or so, and they can use that to use elsewhere. But I would have thought with Ceballos, Asensio, Valverde, Rodrigo, Vinicius Jr., Renier, and you'd expect, obviously they've got Jovic, but you'd expect one of the Mbappe's or Highlands to eventually join that team. So, you know, it looks like a team that could dominate, maybe not now, but it's set up for the future generations. And it hasn't happened for Ceballos. Now, there's two things to speak about. First and foremost, another club has registered their interest. According to Mundo Deportivo, Juventus are interested in signing Ceballos and are willing to meet Real Madrid's asking price. The Italians are ready to offer a lucrative contract which will increase his wages from 3 million per year to the region of 4.5/5 per year. Now, he's got to ask himself a lot, because I'm not going to lie, Juventus is one of them clubs. I mean, you know, you've got to listen to what they have to say. It's the biggest club in Italy, one of the biggest in the world. You know, they want to win Champions League, and be in the Champions League, something where we'll get onto it, but if he stayed at Arsenal or something, is not going to be there with him. Obviously, they've got a very competitive and strong side, fantastic depth. They've got Cristiano Ronaldo, a world-class player, and, you know, one of the best evers to do it. You know, so there's a chance of titles, a competitive side, and being in that environment, for me, that's something you've got to go and do. Now, where he could fall short, people, is you look at the sheer depth of midfielders, in particular at Juventus. Ramsey's had a bit of a tough time. He's had some good moments and low. Emre Can's kept it moving. Rabiot's barely played. You've got Matuidi there. You've got Pjanic. You've got Dybala, who can play in midfield as well. You've got, I'm probably missing out a couple players, and Bentancur, who's a quality player and potential to be one of the best midfielders in the world. I believe him and Arthur of Barcelona are quality. Now, if he was to look at it, if he backs himself to play there, then go and do that. But there's a lot of depth and recent signings. If he was to look at recent midfielders, it hasn't all worked out there. So you could go there and not be a part of it. But if you back yourself, then it's a fantastic project. Like I said, it's competitive. You're in a competitive environment. They're always trying to go for the champs. 9 times out of 10, they're going to win the league. I'd imagine that the way of life in Italy is slightly more aligned to how he potentially would have lived in Betis or Spain in general. Obviously, London and Madrid are two different, but for an outsider, aren't they two capital cities? So I imagine they're both busy. But, you know, the weather is better in Italy, and the lifestyle and things. This could all, you know, make him go and do that. I'm sure he wants to make it at Madrid. He's been linked with Valencia. If they can afford him, is another case, because one minute they have to sell Soler for 35 million euros. The next they want Ceballos. And I think whatever Ceballos chooses, he's got to pick somewhere where he can settle for a few years, because one minute he's at Real Madrid, he's basically playing. He's come to Arsenal, and yeah, he's in the side now, but it's been, you know, it's been touch and go. You know, if he goes to a Juventus, there's fantastic depth. If he proves himself, he'll play every week. But again, he needs to go somewhere where he's genuinely important, starting week in, week out. He's of that age now. He's touching almost 24. But what do I know? Apparently we would like to have him on loan for another season, but Real Madrid would prefer to cash in on him to raise funds, and I'm not really sure Ceballos would take up the option of staying here for another year. Maybe with being in the team now, maybe with, you know, show of faith from his fellow countryman Arteta, maybe, but I think he would want to, if he was to go on loan again, he'd potentially go to the teams he's been linked with, like Betis again, Seville and Valencia. Who knows what's going to happen in that regards, people. Not me for sure. But moving away from Ceballos though, people, and let's get on to Unai Emery. Now, via the Sun, I'm just going to read it out. Sasha Wright, an ex-girlfriend of former boss Unai Emery, says he branded her the White Witch, blaming her for his team's bad form that got him sacked. Now, of course, this lady is selling this to the paper. It's very irrelevant. And with the global epidemic, we all need to get a couple extra pounds where we can. So she's probably doing that now. I mean, why would you wait till now? Obviously, it's sad because Emery's not here to, regardless what you think of Emery, I don't like when people, man or woman or whatever, are talked on and they're not given an opportunity to speak as well, because there's three sides to every story. There's your side, my side, and what's actually the truth without opinion. But yeah, man, he branded her a white witch. Why he did that, I don't know. The connotations behind that, I don't know. But that seems pretty damn harsh. Apparently, he claimed their relationship was turbulent and frequent rows were responsible for an embarrassing winless run that got him axed from the club last November. And obviously, as a football manager or anything in life, it must be difficult balancing your personal life and your professional life, especially as a football manager when, you know, it's all on your head. When it's all going right, Emery's praised. When it's all going bad, it's all Emery. So you don't really have time for a relationship. You haven't really got time to be the best person in a private perspective that you could be. They were together for 2 years. Obviously, he's divorced from his last partner, who he's got children with. It ended last month. She also tells how he used Google Translate on dates after matches and would keep her up all night watching 2 games of football at once in bed. I trusted Emery and really believed we would get married and have kids together one day. I thought he was a gentleman and a real family man, but in the end, I realised he was not ready for something serious, a serious relationship. He was dumped last September, people, just 2 months before he was given the boot by Arsenal. Apparently, she took him back in December. It was then that he blamed me for getting him the sack. He told me I was a white witch as I had brought him so much bad luck. He said it was the day we broke up that we started to lose. He told me he was so stressed that his mind wasn't in the right place after we separated. Of course it wouldn't be, you know. He's a prideful man, as any football manager should be, and it's difficult to take when people, you know, you've won 3 Europa League titles, you're trying your best regardless of what I or someone thinks, and people that haven't done this are criticising you all the time, making personal comments. And with football, it's never switching off. As a football manager, you're never switching off, you're trying to get it right, and this was probably just more stress on his head. She doesn't owe him anything. If she defined the relationship as, you know, it's not working for her and she needs to keep it moving, then, you know, she owes him nothing. She doesn't need to go with him. But, you know, it can be a lonely place, and it probably got a bit more lonely on Unai Emery, and I don't believe he blamed her. I think this is just to sell a bit of story by herself, and obviously whoever journalist wrote this to jazz it up a bit, but I don't know. Of course, it's purely because it's not her fault. He's the football manager. She's irrelevant in that regards, but who knows, man, it's to them. Yeah, man, he told me he was so stressed and that his mind wasn't in the right place after we separated. We met in the summer of 2018 and we started chatting, but I do not follow football, so I had no idea who he was. He told me he worked in the sports industry and his English was bad as he just moved to London. He asked me out, but he didn't want to meet anywhere too busy. He asked me to go to his house in Barnet, but I told him no, absolutely not. Man like Emery trying to organise the meet and delete real quick. Man like Emery, you know. But anyways, moving forward, people. We agreed to meet at an Italian restaurant in Hampstead. I know that cost bands. When we arrived, I realised he must be someone important. As though the restaurant was about to close, they kept it open. He had a heavy accent. He would regularly stop the conversation so he could check words on Google Translate on his phone. But I found him attractive from the moment we met. Man like Emery, you know, what she said, she fell in love with the hair and the drip and that. Madman. But he dressed well and seemed like a really nice guy. He joked that I could be his English teacher. That's a bit biggie. But, I read that wrong. Yeah, shout out to Emery. Emery's got the bars, you know, man. Like Emery, what, as a Lacazette and them man been busting him on something. He's smooth with it. I went on to talk about how they would drink champagne till 1 a.m. He's LP champagne as well. I know that's thing. I bought that once and that hurt my bank balance. So I know Emery's balling. She said his house was big and beautiful. It was beautifully designed with the most amazing chandelier in the hallway and a huge spiral staircase. Unai was very thoughtful at first. He didn't buy me any gifts or take me shopping. I didn't expect that as I have my own money. But we had a really nice time. And we went on some really nice holidays and weekends together. Man, like Emery, you know, he's not under spending money on them things there if it's not exclusive. Man, like Emery, you know. Hey, you know, it fell out towards the end, Emery, but this might be your best tactical masterclass yet. We would meet up after most games and sometimes during the week too. If the game had not been playing, he would tell me, I'm having a tough time. It's very stressful at the moment. He's always watching football and checking the results. Duh, he's a football manager, lady. He would even lie in bed with one game on his computer and one on his laptop. This would be in the morning, also right before we slept. It was a bit annoying, but his routine and I accepted it. Right, boy. And she also said that, you know, this is another part. She also kind of vexed that she didn't meet his family. She said, I never met his family, his friends, or any of Arsenal staff. If we bumped into someone in a restaurant, he would never introduce me as his girlfriend. And if someone tried to take our picture, he would get upset. He was often edgy when we were arriving at a restaurant. But once we got inside, he would relax, and start kissing and hugging me. But last summer, my friend showed me a paper article which he said he and his wife had to move seats on an aeroplane because they were being heckled. I confronted him and he was like, oh my God, you don't trust me. He said he was travelling with his brother and was with his brother's wife. Man like Emery trying to do the two-timing thing. Man like Emery. He got caught though. By last September, I wasn't sure where we were going. I told him, if you're not going to introduce me to people and settle down, what's the point of this? He told me again and again that he needed more time. Sounded like he's still trying to keep his job. He said, let's take things slowly. I told him I've had enough and ended it. I flew out to meet him in San Sebastian just before New Year's Eve, and it was then that he blamed me for Arsenal losing. After splitting again next month, she vowed never to see him again, and we both know that's a gas. She'll go and link my man if he sets it. But it is what it is in that regard. That's pretty damn funny, Emery. But do your thing, Emery. Finally, people, apparently Arsenal players are unhappy with club chiefs. Arsenal have reportedly told their players that they will not have to take a pay cut for losses suffered by the club during the corona crisis should they qualify for the Champions League this season. According to a report in the Telegraph, the move has not gone down well with Gunner Stars, with the report claiming the move is a non-starter with many of the squad. As you know, obviously, before the outbreak, we were obviously 5 points and 4 positions off the Champions League spaces, people. Now, we all know there's going to be a knock-on effect felt by the FA, Footballing Association, clubs at all levels, playing staff, many different agents, many different fragments of football. And especially with the whole... listen, you've seen Sheffield United and a couple of other people furlong staff and begin to make player cuts, and the player cuts is to and from. I've done a video in relation to the agent's perspective and what Mesut Ozil and Toby Alderweireld's agents have said, and I think it's a touchy subject. From a moral point of view, when you look at it like that, these players are willing and will take pay cuts to help those in need, like they've shown with their initiative in collaboration with the NHS. But how it's actually drawn up, how it's actually dotted with I's and crossed with T's in the contract, it's a very delicate one, because clubs are crafty. Like you've seen, they'll already exploit a furlong that's really for people who really need it to keep their business afloat. So imagine what they would do with taking 30% off their footballers, their football stars, and things like that. And especially in Arsenal's case, when you're hearing if we don't make the Champions League, I mean, maybe that's paper talk, but we're nailed on to not make that Champions League. So that's a bit of a cheeky one, really and truly. And, you know, people may have to take cuts and things, but again, it should be on players' terms, if I'm honest. Like, players, if I'm a player, I'm not agreeing to the pay cut until, you know, my agent has looked through it and agrees with it and has covered me if any of the goalpost shifts. And every player, whether they want to or not, should. Again, people, if it is a pay cut as white and black as, you know, we're taking a 30% pay cut and straight away it's going to NHS or charities or things, I don't think players have a problem with that. The issue is when clubs automatically, you know, when the paycheck comes in the monthly sum, because they don't get paid weekly, they're already cutting off 30%. Could you imagine how clubs can take advantage of this? So we'll never know the true impact of these things until it filters in, people. We'll have to see in that regards. Moving away from that though, people, and a final note, just to mention it, Sky Sports will not ask for 371 million rebate from the Premier League if the season is cancelled, as talks continue between the broadcaster and league chiefs over alternative rights deals. Talks between the Premier League and Sky have indicated that almost half of the 762 million exposure is not at risk. In the worst case, the Premier League would only have to repay at most 150 million, as many companies have indicated a willingness to negotiate a settlement. So these sort of things, I guess, in theory, bring us back to the Premier League potentially starting again, away from obviously health and safety. But, you know, it's something really that we'll have to just see as we go ahead. But for now, it's been a pleasure, but I'm going to get out of it. People, Deluded. Thank you for watching.